Do you know that feeling? When your chest tightens from unsolicited advice, when every word of criticism echoes with a dull ache somewhere inside. Your mom once again knows best which path you should choose. Your boss at work feels it's their duty to point out your shortcomings, even if they're not work-related. Friends, with the best intentions, impose their vision of your happiness. You nod, you smile, but inside, a fire of anger, resentment, and despair ignites. You want to scream, but the words get stuck in your throat. You feel how someone else's opinion, like poisonous ivy, entwines your life, your will, your uniqueness. A sticky, paralyzing fear arises, the fear of losing your true self, of living life by someone else's decree, never hearing the melody of your own soul. The fear that one day you'll look back and realize you ran a marathon on someone else's track, towards someone else's finish line. But what if I told you? There's just one answer. Psychologically sound and incredibly powerful, capable of disarming even the most intrusive advisor? An answer that will not only allow you to preserve your dignity and defend your personal boundaries, but also to take the first, decisive step towards your true freedom. Watch this video to the end, and you'll get this key. If you stay with me, you won't just learn this shield phrase. You'll understand the deep psychological nature of those who so desperately try to control your life, why they do it, and what inner demons compel them to reach for your helm. We'll dive into the fascinating world of Jungian psychology to bring the hidden motives of these advisors to light. And most importantly, you'll master a universal approach, a single one, yet genius in its simplicity, that will allow you to establish impenetrable personal boundaries once and for all, and find that inner confidence you may have long dreamed of. Ready? Then, let's begin our journey to the heart of the problem and its solution. Before we get to that one true answer, which I promise will change your reaction to advisors forever, let's peek behind the curtain of their behavior. Why do some people so persistently strive to dominate, control others' lives, and dish out advice left and right, even when they're not asked? The great Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung gave us the tools to understand these complex mechanisms. One of the key concepts here is the shadow. Each of us has a shadow. It's that part of our personality that we don't accept, that we repress, considering it bad or unworthy. These are our hidden fears, suppressed desires, unrealized ambitions, complexes. And here's where it gets interesting. People who constantly advise and criticize very often project their shadow onto others. Imagine a person who is terrified of failure, but won't admit it even to themselves. Instead of working through their fear, they'll constantly tell you how to act correctly to avoid failure, criticizing your bold decisions because they resonate with their own suppressed fear. It's as if they're trying to control their shadow through you. Their advice isn't care for you, but a desperate attempt to cope with their own inner demons projected onto you. Another important aspect is compensation. A person feeling weak, insignificant, or insecure in some area of their life might try to compensate by imposing their opinion on others. By giving advice, they seem to elevate themselves in their own eyes, feeling more knowledgeable, more authoritative, stronger. It's an illusion of control over someone else's life that gives them temporary relief from their own feelings of inadequacy. For example, someone who hasn't achieved career success might eagerly teach life to their younger colleagues or children, trying to realize through them what they couldn't achieve themselves. Their advice is dictated not by wisdom, but by the bitterness of unfulfillment. Jung also spoke of the shadow archetype. It's not just individual repressed qualities, but a universal, common human dark side. And when a person is obsessed with controlling others, it can be a manifestation of their unintegrated, suppressed shadow, seeking an outlet through domination and devaluing others. They don't see you, they only see a reflection of their own internal conflicts. Remember that moment when someone told you, "I told you so," with unconcealed satisfaction? If something went wrong after you didn't follow their advice, this is a vivid example of how someone else's failure can fuel the advisor's sense of self-righteousness and importance, especially if their shadow craves validation of its wisdom at others' expense. A little story. Imagine a middle-aged woman whose own personal life hasn't worked out. She constantly advises her young niece on how to correctly choose men, how to build relationships, literally dictating every step. In reality, through this advice, she's trying to rewrite her own life script. Avoid the pain of her own mistakes, projecting her fears and regrets onto her niece. She's not helping. She's trying to heal her wounds at someone else's expense. And very soon, I'll tell you how one phrase can help you stop this flow of projections. Jung introduced the concept of archetypes, universal patterns of behavior, images, and symbols that exist in the collective unconscious. In situations of intrusive advice, we often see the manifestation of certain archetypal scenarios. The advisor might unconsciously play the role of the all-knowing wise old man, or the caring parent, but in a distorted, exaggerated form. They believe they possess the truth and are obligated to convey it to the unreasonable other. And the one who becomes the object of advice risks ending up in the role of the eternal child or the victim. If you constantly heed others' instructions, if you're afraid to make an independent decision without external approval, you might be unconsciously agreeing to the role of a dependent child who needs adult guidance. This is a comfortable, but very dangerous position. Comfortable, because it relieves you of responsibility. Dangerous, because it deprives you of your own power and the opportunity to live your unique life. Think about it. Haven't you noticed that in the presence of certain people, you seem to shrink, become less confident, more prone to self-doubt? This could be a sign that you've fallen into an archetypal trap. For example, a domineering mother who continues to treat her 40-year-old son like a little boy, constantly telling him how to dress, who to befriend, how to raise his children. She's stuck in the archetype of the great mother in her controlling aspect, and the son, if he can't resist, remains in the role of the subordinate son-child. Or a colleague who, under the guise of help, constantly criticizes your work, trying to establish themselves as an informal mentor, when in reality, they might be projecting their insecurity or envy. By recognizing these roles, you get the chance to step out of the script. Awareness is the first step to liberation. You are not obligated to play the role imposed on you. You are not obligated to be an eternal student of self-proclaimed gurus. It's important to understand, when you let others decide for you, you give them your power, your autonomy. You agree to the role of the follower, while within you, you have everything needed to be the leader in your own life. We are approaching the solution of how to do this. But first, another important piece of the puzzle. We've already touched on projections, but let's delve deeper, because this is key to understanding why intrusive advice so often hurts and why it's really not about you. Projection, according to Jung, is an unconscious process of transferring one's own unacceptable qualities, thoughts, feelings, or motives onto another person. When someone constantly advises you how to live, criticizes your choices, condemns your actions, there's a high probability they see not the real you, but a screen for their own projections. Their shadow, everything they suppress and don't acknowledge in themselves, comes out and is attributed to you. Imagine someone terrified of being judged by society. They'll constantly advise you to not stick out, be like everyone else, not risk your reputation. Why? Because they're projecting their own fear of judgment onto you. Their advice is an attempt to protect themselves in your guise from an imaginary threat, or someone who, deep down, envies your courage and freedom but can't admit it to themselves. They'll criticize your reckless actions, call you irresponsible, because your freedom reminds them of their own cage, their unfulfilled desires. Their criticism is disguised envy, a projection of their own shadow. It's crucial to realize this. Intrusive advice and criticism most often speak to the advisor's own problems, fears, complexes, and unfulfillment, not your shortcomings. When you truly understand this, you'll stop taking their words personally. You'll start to see behind the stream of instructions not your wrongness, but the other person's inner pain and turmoil. This doesn't mean you should pity or justify them. It means you can stop getting emotionally involved in their projections. Recall a situation. Someone tells you, "You're too emotional." Think, isn't the advisor someone who suppresses their emotions, fears them, considers them a sign of weakness? Perhaps they're projecting onto you their own repressed emotionality, which they recall a situation. Someone tells you, "You're too emotional." Think, isn't the advisor someone who suppresses their emotions, fears them, considers them a sign of weakness? Perhaps they're projecting onto you their own repressed emotionality, which they'd like to express but can't allow themselves. Or a classic, "You need to get married urgently. The clock is ticking." Often, this comes from people who aren't very happy in their own marriages or fear loneliness, and they project their fears and societal attitudes onto you. Their advice is a reflection of their own worldview, their anxieties, not an objective assessment of your situation. Once you start recognizing these projections, you'll feel immense relief. You'll realize you're not obligated to meet others' expectations, which are actually just a reflection of their inner world. And here we come to the most important thing: your right to your own path, to what Jung called individuation. And yes, that very phrase that will help you defend this path is very close. Carl Jung introduced a fundamental concept: individuation. It's a lifelong process of becoming oneself, unlocking one's unique potential, integrating all parts of one's personality, including the shadow, to achieve wholeness and become who you truly are. It's the path to your true self, or as Jung called it, the self, the central archetype of order and personality wholeness. Individuation is not selfishness or isolation from society. On the contrary, it's about finding your authentic essence, to then interact more fully and harmoniously with the world, but from a position of your uniqueness, not blind adherence to others' expectations or social norms. And herein lies the root of the problem with intrusive advice. When someone tries to dictate how you should live, they are, in essence, hindering your individuation process. They try to impose their path, their values, their fears, their script on you. They try to make you a copy of themselves or their ideal image of someone, but not you. Resisting others' intrusive advice, being able to say no to external pressure. This is not just an act of self-defense. It's a vital step on the path to your personal integrity and true freedom. Every time you refuse to follow someone else's decree and choose what resonates with your inner intuition, you take a step towards yourself. You assert your right to a unique life experience, to your mistakes and your victories. After all, individuation is not a smooth road. It's a path full of challenges, doubts, and quests, but it is your path. And only by walking it can you find true satisfaction and meaning. Imagine the seed of a unique flower. If people constantly try to improve it, water it with the wrong water, plant it in the wrong soil, demand it become a rose when it's a sunflower, it will either die or grow weak and distorted. It's the same with the human soul. Each of us has our own inner compass, our own unique developmental program. And when we allow others to knock us off this course, we betray our nature. Therefore, the ability to defend your right to your own path is not a whim, but an existential necessity. It's a declaration to the universe: I am here to be myself. And soon you'll learn how to make this declaration most effectively and tactfully. For even deeper understanding, let's touch upon two more important Jungian concepts: the anima and animus. The anima is the unconscious feminine aspect in a man, and the animus is the unconscious masculine aspect in a woman. These archetypes are responsible for our capacity for relationships, our internal images of the opposite sex, and also for certain personality traits. Problems begin when we project our unintegrated anima or animus onto real people, most often partners, but this can also manifest in friendly and professional relationships. For example, a man with an undeveloped, projected anima may have inflated, unrealistic expectations of his partner. He seeks in her the ideal mother, muse, goddess, and when she doesn't fit this image, he might start criticizing her, educating her, giving advice on how she can become better. In reality, he's trying to complete his own inner woman through her, instead of developing these qualities within himself. Similarly, a woman with a dominant, unintegrated animus, often manifesting as a set of rigid opinions and beliefs, masculine logic in its negative critical aspect, might constantly tell her partner how he should be a man. She'll advise him on how to make money, how to make decisions, how to show strength and decisiveness. This is nothing other than a projection of her own inner man, her unrealized ambitions or ideas about masculinity. Such projections of the anima and animus in the form of advice and criticism are a common cause of conflict and dissatisfaction in relationships. A person tries to change another, to fit them into their internal template, instead of working on integrating their own anima or animus, i.e., developing the missing feminine or masculine qualities within themselves. For example, in a family, a wife constantly advises her husband on how to run his business, even though she knows nothing about it. Probably, her animus, her inner need for action and achievement, finds no outlet, and she projects it onto her husband, trying to realize her ambitions through him. Or a friend who constantly criticizes your gentleness and emotionality might be struggling with their own anima, considering these qualities a sign of weakness. Recognizing these projections helps not only in dealing with advisors, but also in building healthier, more conscious relationships. And now that we've delved so deeply into the psychology of this phenomenon, we are ready for that very answer. We've come a long way, delving into the depths of advisor psychology. You've learned about the shadow, projections, archetypes, individuation, and all this was necessary for you to understand not only why others behave this way, but also why the answer I'm about to give you holds such incredible power. Ready? Here it is. Simple, yet brilliant. When someone intrusively comes at you with advice, criticism, instructions on how to live, you look them in the eye, if appropriate, or simply say it in a calm, confident tone and say, "Thank you, but I trust my inner voice." Yes, just, "Thank you, but I trust my inner voice." Why are these words so effective? Let's break down the psychological reasoning. Firstly, the word "thank you." It disarms. You don't engage in confrontation. You don't make excuses. You don't argue. You politely acknowledge that you've heard the person. This diffuses their defensive reaction, gives them no reason for further aggression or lectures like, "I only wish you well," and "you." You show respect for their, albeit misplaced, impulse, but not for the content of the advice. Secondly, the key part, "but I trust my inner voice." This phrase appeals to the Jungian concept of the self and inner wisdom. Jung believed that within each of us there's a center that knows our true path. This inner voice is the voice of your intuition, your soul, your self, striving for individuation and wholeness. By stating that you trust your inner voice, you're essentially saying, "I have my own compass, my own source of wisdom, and I choose to follow it." This is an assertion of your autonomy and responsibility for your life. You don't shift responsibility to the advisor, nor do you allow them to take it upon themselves. You show that you are the author of your life. How does this affect the advisor's psychology? This phrase gently but firmly stops their unconscious projections. When you speak of your inner voice, you shift the focus from their projections, their fears, complexes, expectations, to your inner reality, to which they have no access. They have nothing to argue against your inner voice because it's your sovereign territory. They may not understand, may not agree, but arguing with it is pointless. It's like saying, "I feel this is right for me." How can one dispute someone else's feeling? Moreover, this phrase might make the advisor, at least for a moment, reflect on their own motives. When their projection finds no response, when it doesn't latch onto your insecurity or willingness to submit, it sort of bounces back to them. They might unconsciously feel that their attempt at control or self-assertion has failed. This might cause them confusion, surprise, but most importantly, it breaks the usual advisor-victim pattern. You step out of that role. This phrase is not aggression. not rudeness. It's a calm, confident statement of your psychological sovereignty. It helps establish clear personal boundaries. You're not rejecting the person, you're rejecting their attempt to invade your territory. You're saying, I hear you, but I make the decision based on my internal guides. It's a statement of your commitment to the path of individuation, the path to your true self. Try it. You'll be surprised how powerful this simple yet profoundly psychologically sound statement can be. It requires no lengthy explanations or justifications. It is self-sufficient. And remember, as I promised at the beginning, this approach is universal. It works with parents, friends, colleagues, bosses, anyone who tries to impose their opinion on you. The main thing is to say these words with inner confidence that comes from understanding all those deep processes we've discussed today. So, we've reached the end of our deep dive. We've uncovered the psychology of intrusive advisors, understood how their behavior is linked to the shadow, projections, and unmet needs. We've seen how important it is to follow your path of individuation to find wholeness and true freedom. And you've received that one true answer. Thank you, but I trust my inner voice. Remember, your life is your, and only your, unique story. No one has the right to write it for you. No one knows better than you what is true for you, what brings you joy, what leads you to yourself. The right to live this life your own way, making your mistakes and celebrating your victories, belongs to each of us. Don't let others' fears and complexes knock you off your path. Trust yourself, your inner voice, your intuition. It's the most reliable guide. And now, I want to turn to you. Right now, in the comments below this video, please share what intrusive advice most often gets on your nerves. What do you have to deal with? And are you ready to try using the proposed approach? This simple yet brilliant phrase. Let's create a space of support here, where everyone can share their experience and feel they're not alone in their quest for inner freedom. If this video resonated with you, if you felt an inner response and readiness to move towards your true self, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new deep dives. And give this video a like. This will help other people searching for answers to find this video. Thank you for being with me on this journey. Trust yourself. Every time someone intrusively advises you, they're trying to drown out their own fears and doubts. Write in the comments, what advice do you encounter most often? Let's support each other together in finding our unique individuality and inner freedom. Thanks for watching and for your sincerity.